Good evening. Welcome to the CEDO show. CEDO stands for Community and Economic Development Office. I'm Brian Pine, the Assistant Director for Housing and Neighborhood Revitalization. And this is a live show on Monday, November 24th. We encourage you to call in. The number appears on the screen. So please call in with any of your questions or concerns. With me tonight is Sarah Woodward from the Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity Mobile Home Project. That is always a mouthful. And Jeremiah Ward with the Cooperative Development Institute. Our topic tonight is the pending sale of the Farrington Mobile Home Park, and more specifically we're going to get into what is the process for the sale of a mobile home park in Vermont, and what can we do to ensure that the park is preserved as affordable housing and that the residents are protected. I think that's primarily what we're talking about tonight. So why don't you guys start by just telling us a little bit about your organization and your role in this process.
Sure. So as Brian mentioned, my name's Sarah Woodward. I'm the director of the mobile home program at Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity. And we work with mobile home park residents throughout the state, doing individual counseling with homeowners that have questions about their rights and responsibilities, but in large parts when big events like a park sale or a rent increase goes into effect, our role is to make sure that residents fully understand the options available to them, and I'll work side by side residents in whatever avenue it is that they pursue. And today we're going to talk about what those options are, whether it's pursuing a cooperative, a resident-owned cooperative, or nonprofit purchase of a park. But really, my role is to make sure that people have the best information possible to be informed about the future of the land that their homes are on.
Great. We'll come back to you in just a minute with some questions about that. Jeremiah.
So yeah, my name is Jeremiah Ward, and I am from the Cooperative Development Institute. We're a USDA-funded co-op development center developing co-ops in pretty much every sector. And I'm particularly from a program that specializes in mobile home co-ops throughout New England. So we cover every state in New England except for New Hampshire. And I particularly work in Vermont and Western Mass. And our program, specializing in helping residents of mobile home communities purchase and run their communities as co-ops, started 4 years ago, and we've converted 16 communities in New England and 4 in Vermont. And I'm there to provide technical assistance during the purchase process to residents to help them form their organization, to form their bylaws, establish a set of community rules, apply for financing, to after the co-op has purchased their community. I'm there for just setting up business structures, making sure the community runs smoothly, and just making sure things look good moving forward.
All right, good. We'll definitely come back to that topic of what exactly is a co-op and how does it differ from other types of ownership. But Sarah, could you just explain for the viewers the state law regarding the sale of a mobile home park and what protections are there for the residents?
Sure. So mobile home park law offers a special protection for residents living in a park. One, they're required to receive notice from the landowner that the owner intends to sell the parcel where their home's on. So that notice will tell what the purchase price is, what exactly, the acreage, how many homes are located on the parcel, all the basic statistics of the park. And residents really are afforded the right of first refusal to purchase the property under mobile home park law. So what does that mean? The day that a park sale notice is issued, it's delivered to all homeowners within the park, and it's also delivered to the Commissioner of the Department of Housing and Community Development. So the date the notice goes out and is received by both those parties, it starts this clock, if you will. So within the first 45 days from that notice going out, residents have the option of pursuing really 3 different options. One, they can decide to do nothing, and when the 45-day period expires, the landowner could proceed with a sale on the open market. Otherwise, should a majority of the homeowners within a park decide to petition the landowner, they could request additional time to explore one of two options. Option one that Jeremiah spoke to is resident ownership or cooperative ownership, which would mean residents would form a new entity, a new corporation that would collectively own the land, and Jeremiah can speak more to that. Or they can elect to appoint a nonprofit housing agency. There's a number of nonprofit land trusts throughout the state that do own and manage mobile home parks. So those are really the two options, moving forward that residents have, either pursuing cooperative ownership, nonprofit ownership, or deciding, we don't want to look into either of these. It's fine if the landowner moves forward.
In your experience, have you ever seen a park where the residents said, we're going to move on and not exercise or not designate a nonprofit? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, that has happened actually. In smaller town communities, I think there have been prospective buyers, prospective investors that wanted to purchase the park, and they were a known entity. It was known in the community. There was a lot of goodwill and trust there, so residents said, we don't really have the time to put into resident ownership. We're not really interested in the nonprofit model. We know our neighbors, and we think they could manage and do well. So it completely depends on the makeup of the community as to what folks want to do and what they see as best for their future.
Mm-hmm. Sarah, do you know approximately what's the percentage of Vermonters that live in mobile homes?
Let's see. 7% of all Vermont's housing stock is mobile homes. Mm-hmm. And of those, I believe about a third of those homes are located within mobile home parks.
In parks. Someone once said about 15% of our residents, of our population, live in mobile homes. That would make sense because, roughly 2 people per household. If it's 7% of the housing stock, just double it in terms of numbers of people. I don't know if it quite works that way, but yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a significant number.
Yeah, there's 200, and the number of parks changes over time, but I think there's about 244 parks within the state, and they vary in size and location.
Mm-hmm. So the law applies to, when we say mobile home park, I think it's important to just clarify.
Sure, what are we talking about?
We mean a piece of property where there's individual lots that are rented to leaseholders who own their homes, right? Wouldn't that be the way you would?
Right, so a mobile home park would be any parcel of land that could accommodate 3 or more mobile home units and be able to support them.
People have asked me, can't these folks just pick up and move and go to another park with their homes? Could you talk about that?
Sure. Well, I think there's a common misperception. I mean, the name mobile home sounds, I can, move it down the road. It sounds pretty mobile, like a travel trailer might be. I think that's a common misunderstanding, that it really costs a lot, one, to move a mobile home, and depending on the age of a mobile home unit, a home may not be roadworthy, so you may not be able to take it to a new site. So
are there
there's
even
the
places
expense,
to bring it?
And that was the next piece I was going to get to is, so where?
Yeah.
As I said, there's mobile home park communities, and then there are plenty of folks that own their mobile homes on land that they own. And so there's one, Farrington's is the one mobile home park community in the city of Burlington. There are others in Shelburne and Colchester and nearby towns. Though much like the local vacancy rate for the rental market, a lot of them are full to capacity. I mean, sure, there's available lots.
Sure. And what's the average rent? Is it different by different counties, perhaps? So what's the rent around here for a mobile home lot?
It varies by county. I'm trying to think of what the up-to-date, the median lot rent. The median lot rent for the state is, I believe, $300. It might be $305 if it's changed within
right around
the
$300. Okay,
year.
that just includes renting the lot. Does that include anything like water, trash?
It depends park to park what lot renting includes. So for some that lot rent may include their water, their trash removal, other services that are provided. Some park leases, individuals are responsible for maintaining their own trash, or if they have independent water meters, they might be responsible for paying their own water. So it depends on circumstances.
Okay, all right. Jeremiah, let's hear a little bit about what is a mobile home co-op?
Great. So mobile home co-op, like Sarah was already saying, it's a corporation, and the residents of a residents of a mobile home park. I guess the best way to explain it is to use an example of an existing one in Vermont. So in Milton, there's Milton Mobile Home Co-op, and it's of a similar size to Farrington's, a little smaller, 99 households.
And Farrington's, again, we didn't say how big it is. How many is Farrington?
120 lots.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So in Milton, the residents formed a cooperative corporation. And the cooperative corporation is an entity that actually owns the land. So the whole parcel of Milton Mobile Home Park is owned by Milton Mobile Home Cooperative. And each of the residents is a shareholder in that co-op. So there's 99 households, each owns 1/99th of a share of the entity. And basically, so there's no, the thing to keep in mind that a lot of people ask me about is there's no subdivision as part of our co-op organizing model. It's not like an individual household then owns a subdivided part of a particular mobile home park. It's one piece of land, and everyone has kind of a collective say in how to run that one piece of land. So it's one household, one vote, because each shareholder is entitled to one vote in how to run the community. And once a year, sometimes twice a year, all the members of the co-op get together and vote on some of the important things that are coming up throughout the year. The biggest one is voting on a board of directors to do more of the involved day-to-day kind of operations of the community, overseeing how the cooperative is managed and functions. The members also in that yearly or twice a year meeting also get together and vote on a budget. So how much they're going to spend on plowing and trash is decided, and they go down to the list. So that's kind of for residents. That's how the day-to-day kind of works. It's getting together once, twice a year to do the big picture decision making for the co-op, and then a board of directors who are also residents in the community are appointed to kind of be the more day-to-day, month-to-month stewards of the co-op, and they kind of make sure that the co-op is keeping in line with its budget, and it's the plow guys doing the job within the budget that was set and to the standards that was set by the membership, etc. So that's kind of the general gist of how it works. And the other thing to keep in mind is that just like in a normal mobile home park where there's one lot rent that pays for taxes, plowing, water, sewer, the same thing exists in a mobile home co-op where one lot rent that's paid by the household now pays for all those services that the members decide upon at the meeting, plowing, water, sewer, and also a property management company, because everyone's busy, and it works a lot better, more smoothly to have a third-party property management company paying bills, collecting rents, doing all that administrative stuff. So that's kind of the day-to-day, month-to-month way of how it works.
So I think the question that gets asked by most people, both residents at Farrington's as well as members of the community who hear about this, is how can over 100 households get financing and pull this thing off as a co-op? So you could talk about that?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So that same question came up in Milton and in every other community I've worked in. And like I said, we've done 16 of these purchases throughout New England, and I've seen it every single time. How is our group of residents going to come up with the financing to make this co-op happen? Milton, the sale price was $2.8 million, and they thought it was this insurmountable issue. And so I go in and I say, well, on the average in New England, we have to research the actual cost, but in New England, the actual per household per month cost to actually pay for the basic operations of a mobile home park is around $140 a month. That's trash, plowing, water, sewer, real estate taxes, insurance, landscaping, all that. Yeah. So all the rest of one's monthly rent, on average, either pays for the owner's financing or a combination of the owner's financing and their profits. Right. So, you know, maybe in the case of Farrington's where rent's $300, you know, the $160, the $140 goes towards expenses. If that doesn't in fact seem to be the case, the other $160 is what is potentially available for, of an individual's rent is available for financing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound like much on an individual level, but $160 times 120 times 12, that's where the financing comes in, the ability to finance comes in. I'm part of, at CDI, we're part of a nationwide network that helps organize and structure these co-ops called Resident-Owned Communities USA, ROC USA. They not only have access to training resources and materials and work with us on the day-to-day to help do the organizing, but they also have a community development financial institution called ROC USA Capital, which has financing available to make mobile home park co-op acquisitions happen. So there's a source of financing there, and there's a model there, and even though the number seems big and almost insurmountable, it's really, if you break things down, there's potential to do it.
Sure. I actually started this field, working in this field 25 years ago, and my first job, as I mentioned to you guys, was I worked for a statewide organization that wanted to form co-ops in mobile home parks and in apartment buildings. And as time went on, we worked at it for over a year, and it became clear that this model was not going to take off the way they thought it was, and the way it had taken off in New Hampshire. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on why, and we may have a call, so we'll come back to that. But I'd like to know why you think maybe it took off, because I think New Hampshire has a couple hundred.
Yeah, 109 now, and we have now 156 nationwide.
Line one? Yeah. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Yes, thanks for taking my call. My call is not a neighbor of Farrington Trailer Park, but a very close neighbor and with relatives that have been neighbors for many, many, many years. Farrington Trailer Park has always been a very, very good neighbor to the community and the people that live in Farrington Trailer Park. So I want to put that out there to begin with. My question to it, I guess I'll address it to Jeremiah. You talk about the financing, and right now we're talking about $320 a month. And if the trailer park went into a co-op, it makes it about $140 on top of that, which makes it, I don't know, $460 a month to reside at Farrington Trailer Park. Is that the number that the residents of the trailer park are looking at? You know, right now they're paying $320, and a year down the road they're paying $460 as members of the co-op.
Can we answer that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that break down in
sure.
dollars and cents?
Sure.
Just for the folks.
Okay.
And great show.
Thank you.
Great show.
All right. Help us with that one.
Yeah, good question. So, yeah, we don't know any exact figures, not even close yet. All I was saying was that...
You're giving an example, right?
I was giving an example,
okay.
Yeah.
But that's a great question, really.
That is
a
really
good question.
Yeah, so I'm not talking about some substantial figure on top of the current lot rents of $300. I'm talking about trying to work as close as possible to or at the current lot rent of the $300.
Yeah. So you took the $140 and said that's operating expenses, if it is, but let's just assume it is.
On average.
The other remaining $160 is what's available to pay, like your mortgage, basically, as a group. And you do that times the number of homes, and you certainly, obviously, each month you would do that. So that's what you're trying to do with that.
Exactly. Right? That's what I'm trying to do.
So the goal here, just an important point, is the goal to try to keep the lot rent as close to what it is now?
Absolutely. And that's something I haven't even spoken to, and I should, is that the benefits of resident ownership, number one...
What are the benefits, Jeremiah?
Thank you. I missed that in the beginning, but the number one benefit is stable lot rents, keeping them as affordable as possible at their current levels better if possible, but as low as possible because it's a source of affordable ownership. The second benefit is that because residents, have a vested interest in improving their communities now that they own it and don't have any profit motive, because it doesn't make sense to charge oneself more money than it costs to run a community, there's actually more resources that are hopefully freed up to fix communities. So that's two, is fixing a community. One is stable lot rent. And the third is just control over the residents' destinies, choosing the level of services they want, who they want to hire to do their work, and so on and so forth. So yeah, back to the caller's question. Yeah. I'm not talking about some $160 additional on top of. And for each resident, the lot rent is all they, just like now, is all they pay. It's called something different maybe in a co-op, but it's as close to or the same as, if possible, what it is now. And just a piece of that would be part of a possible financing that, thanks to Rock USA Capital and some of the financing we have available, it's a 30-year mortgage, so it's to make it affordable.
Great. We'll come back to that, but we also want to hear about New Hampshire's experience, because I think that's really important for us to touch on. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
I may have missed it. What is the asking price of the mobile park?
The owners have asked for $5 million as the asking price.
Okay. And if it's a co-op, will the taxes be less or not such an issue for the residents?
Great question. How are taxes affected?
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
That is a good question. Taxes will pretty much stay the same as they are, in that like right now in Farrington's, the owner gets one tax bill for the whole parcel and then pays it. The same thing will happen with the co-op, where the rents that are paid into the cooperative, the cooperative cuts one real estate tax check for that large parcel, and that's it. It's just part of the rent. Okay. So it'll stay around the same. It'll go up a little bit every year, just like every other real estate tax bill probably, but it's pretty cut and dry. Okay.
A little quickly, there's a huge number of mobile home co-ops in New Hampshire. Any ideas why that is, that Vermont doesn't have so many and New Hampshire has over 100?
That's a great question. I wasn't around back in the day when folks tried to cross the Connecticut River and make it happen. Yeah. But I feel like there's a stronger group of nonprofits that have deeper pockets that are able to, step in and tell residents, hey, we have the funds to make stable lot rent happen by becoming owners in a way that you don't have to do any work. We do all the work managing on your behalf. Whereas the co-op model, one of the challenges of the co-op model, there's all the benefits that I've already mentioned, but one of the challenges is it does take volunteerism on behalf of the membership, but especially the smaller group of people that are elected to be on the board. Those are non-paid positions, and that takes time and effort. Yeah. And so that is a barrier, and I think when confronted with other groups that are, nonprofit groups that just want to come in and provide stable, affordable housing, it's understandable in certain cases why residents would say, hey, I don't have to get involved. I can just cut my rent check, and I can be assured that my lot rent's going to be stable, and leave it at that. Yeah.
Let me just ask Sarah, what happens when residents say, oh, Sarah, what would you recommend we do?
Well, I always say that every community is different, and so it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what works, what's going to work for you. So Jeremiah mentioned the participation element, and that's the reality of a cooperative. It requires participation from its members, and that's not for everyone necessarily. Though the communities in Vermont that have changed to cooperative ownership, they are definitely committed to the cause, committed to their neighbors, and committed to making positive change in their communities and maintaining the affordability. But I'd echo Jeremiah's remark that I think Vermont has a really strong network of nonprofit housing providers, and because of that, I think when parks have gone up for sale in the past, it's been a really viable viable option
To go either way?
for nonprofits
Oh, okay, yeah.
to acquire and carry out the property
Yeah.
management.
Have you ever done like a satisfaction survey or anything to see if we don't have a lot of co-ops to compare to, but is there any sense of resident satisfaction in a co-op versus resident satisfaction in a nonprofit-owned park?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's a great question. The Co-op Development Institute, to all of our co-op clients, we send out surveys to our boards, and we're very well received in Vermont. I can't speak to the residents groups as a whole, but I feel there's a lot of enthusiasm and general support among folks, and I'm hoping that even at some of these upcoming info sessions at Farrington's that some co-op residents from Milton and maybe even from Swanton can come and talk about it, because they do, despite the work required to make co-ops work, the volunteerism required,
Sure.
there is a sense of control and community that it didn't exist before.
Right.
when they had a landlord. So.
Yeah. I'm on a board. I actually have to go to a meeting. I'm missing part of my meeting right now at Northgate Apartments. And Northgate's official name is actually Northgate Resident Ownership Corporation, because Northgate is a resident-owned community. It's 336 apartments. And the residents don't own it as a co-op, but they actually control the board of directors. So it's a little bit different, but it's basically the same concept.
Right.
They don't have to make an investment in the form of a share, but many of them have lived there for so many years that they put their money in 20 or 30 years ago as a security deposit, and they're highly invested in the outcome of the life in that community, the shared life and the infrastructure and the quality and the affordability, and all of that is driven by residents and resident concerns. So I think it's not that foreign to Burlington.
Right.
We also have apartment co-ops, Flynn Avenue Co-op, Rose Street Co-op, right over the border in South Burlington we have the Queensbury Co-op. There are a number of rental properties that are thriving as cooperatives, so it's not at all foreign. And our largest, the New England's largest, or our highest per square footage grossing natural food store is a co-op in Burlington, and that's a consumer co-op. That's a little different, but it's a model that has worked for a long time. Goes back to England, like 200 years ago, I think, the notion.
And since you brought up the issue of shares in that one housing co-op, I should speak to that too.
Yeah.
Because that's another one of the frequently asked questions that always comes up.
How much is a share?
How
Right.
much do I personally have to pay to make this huge deal of millions of dollars work? And the answer is, in the mobile home co-op model that we work on, it's $100 is the generally suggested share amount for someone to become a member and have voting rights, et cetera, et cetera. And it stays fixed. So there's no, on top of that, there's no down payment required on any individual resident's behalf. There's no individual resident having their credit run. It's all the financing, the mortgages held by and run by the cooperative corporation as a separate entity.
Okay.
And an individual only contributes their $100 share, and they can even pay that in chunks over time to make it affordable.
Wow, that's great. The community may wonder what's going on next. Sarah, could you just talk a little bit about the next steps?
Sure.
We have about a minute, I think.
Take a look at my notes. So yeah, for folks that are interested, for more information, we have 2 upcoming meetings. The first is really we'll dig into resident rights and options on December 2nd from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Heineberg Senior Center. So that way we'll be explaining mobile home park law, options, move forward from there. We'll have a follow-up on December 9th. I don't know what the outcome of the December 2nd meeting will be. We'll find out. But I'm sure there will be more questions to follow. So we'll be meeting December 9th, 7 to 9 p.m. again at the Heineberg Senior Center.
All right.
Specifically for Farrington's Mobile Home Park.
Great. We are running out of time. There's so much to discuss on this subject that we didn't get to, but hopefully the residents will watch it, and it may pique their interest enough that we get a great turnout on the 2nd. And I think the knowledge base here, and as well as other folks who will be joining, will be really helpful in demystifying and hopefully addressing the fears of the residents that this may in fact be the end of the park, because I believe it won't be. And I think we're good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling us in, Brian.
Thank you.